Mark Rogers TV talking a little USC and UCLA football with Britt Johnson from KLAF. Britt, thanks so much for jumping on board with us here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk Pac-12. I've been with the SEC in Louisiana for a while, so I'm excited to be back in California talking Pac-12 sports.
Yeah, so like we talked about before we started to record, going from LA to LA.
Yes. Yes, I'm actually originally from here, Los Angeles, and then I was in Louisiana for about 6-7 months, and now I'm back here in LA. So I'm really excited to be back home, excited to be out of the humidity, excited to be back with Cali sports. So.
Yeah, so before we dive into the Bruins and the Trojans, what did you work on there in Louisiana?
Well, the big thing I did, obviously I covered a lot of Ben Simmons. He was taken over, or first overall in the NBA draft. He was at LSU, so I covered him a lot. But mostly it was Raging Cajuns baseball, softball, and Tigers baseball and softball. And of course both teams, softball and baseball for both schools went to the series. So it was pretty amazing covering both. I talk that much on baseball and softball as they are in the South. So it was pretty cool to kind of see, Louisiana. And everybody knows Louisiana fans are crazy and they're really exciting. So just being in that atmosphere was literally like a dream come true. It was really cool.
Yeah, I covered the SEC for 6 years, and I was right in the middle of it as well. So I got a taste of it.
Nothing like it in this country.
Now you're going back to LA, and you've actually just arrived. So I think maybe you could possibly bring some luck back to the Trojans and the Bruins. Difficult time in week 1 for both teams to varying degrees. For UCLA, It was a heartbreaking loss against an SEC team on the road against Texas A&M in overtime.
They were murdered, to say the least. It was a bad game.
Well, yeah, for USC, then it was a complete demolition. So maybe we start there. Did you have a chance to see USC and Alabama, and your thoughts about, of course, the sky is falling for many Trojan fans, and
yes.
Helton not being an experienced coach at the head coaching level at that point. Some people are questioning him.
Well, first of all, USC the last few years has had like tons and tons of trouble with their coaching. So I feel really bad for, the kids that have gone through this program because they're expecting to have an elite program. And last season when their coach basically got fired for being drunk all the time and, just having to go through different coaches and different things throughout the last couple of years, I think has been very difficult for this team. And obviously a lot of these recruits coming in didn't expect that being at USC, they would have to deal with that kind of stuff. But everywhere in LA right now, like the last couple weeks, it's been USC is back, billboards everywhere. Everyone was really excited about this season. And I think this week confirmed that USC is not back, unfortunately. Although, Alabama put up 52 points on them, I would say their defensive line doesn't look bad. I still think they have a chance, and they're going to be playing Utah State this weekend. They're not going to be, even if they do win the game, they're not going to be able to prove much because Utah State isn't, a top 25 team. But I think it will help their confidence a little bit going into the rest of this season. But I'm not seeing too much greatness coming out of USC this year.
Yeah, for like a quarter and a half, they played.
The very first quarter, yeah. I was like, okay, they might have a chance. I never thought they were going to win, but, the first quarter, I definitely thought they had a chance, and then Bama took over, so.
Yeah, Britt, it was a different story for UCLA. They had a legitimate chance to beat Texas A&M, a very difficult place to play. Kyle Field, 100,000 people. They go to overtime, but things didn't work out for the Bruins. So they're off to a rough start in terms of wins and losses, but obviously very competitive in that first game.
Right. UCLA, I think, actually has a chance to do something in the Pac-12. I mean, obviously we still have Stanford at number 7 and Oregon, is still in the top 25 as well. So I think those are going to be huge competitions. And UCLA does not play Oregon this year. So I think their schedule is a little bit better fit for them. And like USC and UCLA both have home games this weekend as their home introduction. I think UCLA has a better chance of being a better team than USC because really I don't think UCLA was outplayed. I think they beat themselves. There was tons of penalties. There were multiple times where they were able to score and they didn't. So I think it's just kind of working out all those little tweaks with a team that's going to be the difference in the rest of their season. So I don't think that they're a bad team. I think that they're not a well-trained team yet, and I think that they can get there.
What do you think of these coaches? Clay Helton obviously hasn't been there at USC for very long, just at the end of last season. Jim Mora, now a few years under his belt, has brought the UCLA program up to a certain standard, but has some more steps to take.
Yeah, I definitely think Mora is going to be fine there. With USC, I think their biggest problem was probably their offensive coordinator. I can't even think of his name right now, but I think he's the one that kind of, he couldn't keep up with the game himself, you know? So it just, I don't know. I think their biggest problem would probably be their offensive coordinator. I think there does need to be a coach in place that's going to be here for a while, because I think that's what that program lacks, is stability. So I think, you know, leaving Clay there for a few more years would probably be the best bet, just because the team just needs stability. They need a program that they can believe in, and this is going to be our game plan, and this is going to be our playbook, and focus on that. And I don't think either team lacks talent. You know, you're always going to get great recruits at UCLA and USC just because it's 75 degrees year round. You know, I actually had a friend that played, where did he play at? He ended up playing, Adrian Peterson. Actually, I spoke with him. I interviewed him a while ago. And he's from Texas, and he was recruited by LSU. But he said the number one reason why he chose to go to Oklahoma instead was because of the weather. Like, he did not want to play in the humidity. That's the only reason why he didn't want to go to LSU. So I think California has the weather. They have, you know what I mean? A lot of people want to come to Cali. We actually both teams do have a lot of recruits that are California kids. Like, they stay here. They don't want to leave California. And so I don't think they lack talent, but it's just stability and, you know, just getting everybody on the right track and right page.
And that's one thing I really can't understand, because you talk about high school football in California, it's as good as anywhere in the country, including
Absolutely.
Florida and Texas. And people want to go to California because of what you just said. Tons of stuff to do. It's beautiful, beautiful weather year round. I would think it would be easy to recruit to USC or UCLA. And it has been in the past, but they've not been on top of their game for quite some time.
And I know I was speaking to you earlier about, last year I interviewed Mike Juarez, who's their outside linebacker for UCLA. Now he's not starting right now, and he did have a little bit of trouble. He was actually out for a couple weeks, and he had deleted all his pictures on Instagram at UCLA, and so people had a little bit of, like, they didn't know if he was going to stay there or what was going to happen. But as of now, he's still with the team, and he was the number one outside linebacker recruited last year, and he decided to stay home and go to UCLA after being recruited by a lot of the SEC schools. So I think recruiting, they'll be fine, but they do need to get the program together, or moving in the future, people aren't going to want to go there.
Hey, Britt, what is the LA scene like in terms of sports? Because you're a California girl, you've been around it. So we know that the Lakers are huge, the Dodgers at times. Now you got an NFL team. How does college football fit into that? And I, from across the country, view it as USC owns the college football scene, unless UCLA somehow is relevant and USC is having a down period.
The problem with California, Los Angeles in particular, is they only like winners. So whatever team is winning, that's the team. And everyone saw it with the whole Lakers to Clippers. I actually used to work for the Clippers in 2008, and I couldn't pay people to come to the games and, you know, watch the team. Nobody wanted to go to the Clipper games because they were horrible. The following year after that, that's when they drafted Blake Griffin. Second round, they drafted DeAndre Jordan, and all of a sudden now everybody's a Clippers fan and nobody's a Lakers fan. So the teams out here, it sucks because there's no loyalty. Versus, I know when I was in Louisiana, win or lose, everyone was at the LSU games. Everyone was cheering for the Raging Cajuns, no matter what the record was. Out here, it's not really like that. So The last couple of years, I feel like more people have been going to UCLA games than USC games, and they've had, you know, a better few seasons. But everyone will go to the USC games the first couple games of the season. So I guess we'll see this weekend because both teams have a home game this weekend. It's both teams' season opener for home, and so I think we'll really see then. But it's only time will tell. You know, if they start losing a lot, people aren't going to show up at the games. As far as the Rams are concerned, I'm actually a Dallas Cowboy fan, and so I went to the Dallas Cowboy and Rams preseason game. It was the first preseason game of the year at the Coliseum, and it looked like a Dallas Cowboy home game. So there was way more Dallas fans, but Dallas fans do travel. Just because LA hasn't had a team out here and the Cowboys have their training facility out here, LA does have a lot of Cowboys fans, so I will say that. And I don't know, I don't know how the Rams are going to do out here. The tickets went for really cheap. They didn't sell out the stadium at all. The first game did because it was the Cowboys were there and they had to open up the stadium a little bit more. But you also have to take into account that they're playing at a college stadium versus an NFL stadium. And I don't know if a lot of people know this or not, but NFL stadiums are a lot smaller than college football stadiums tend to be, just because the game won't get televised unless it's sold to a certain capacity for NFL. So they usually make the stadiums no more than 80,000 versus, you know, a lot of these college ones are 120,000 seats, you know. So we'll see how it turns out this year. But I mean, a lot of people are excited for the Rams, but I have no idea. Whoever's winning is where they're going to go.
So, Britt, you dropped a couple impressive names of people that you've spoken with and interviewed in the business. So what's your favorite assignment to date?
Well, the best interview I've ever done was with Michael Irvin. And I don't know if it was because I was great at asking questions or he can just talk forever, but he's like a really interesting person to talk to. So that was probably my favorite interview. I actually like doing stories more that are directed to what the athletes are doing outside of their sport. So I used to do a show called Off Season with Britt Johnson, and it was me hanging out with athletes doing whatever they do off season. One guy was a single dad, and so it was like me hanging out with him and his kids, or somebody had just won the Super Bowl and they were playing for the Baltimore Ravens. And then off season, instead of partying and going on vacations, he was getting his master's degree at UCLA. So I like kind of doing stories like that. Those are always the ones that are, you know, going to get my most attention. I'm not really like a stats and scoreboard kind of girl. I would rather do stuff that's based on, you know, what's behind the jersey and the athlete that kind of relates them to the fans.
That's very cool. So you've made the transition from LA to LA, as we talked about, and covering a lot of LSU football in the spring, LSU baseball and basketball, now getting back into the LA swing. So what's your current assignment look like, and where are we going to be able to find you?
So currently I am working on a project. I can't say too much about it, but it's going to be a high school sports show. It's going to be a nationally televised show, and it is going to include football, basketball, baseball, even high school kids that are doing extreme sports. And I'm a reporter for the state of California. There's in every big city, there's a main reporter. There's one in Atlanta and Chicago. And, you know, I'm kind of the one for California. So I'll travel and cover schools like Mater Dei and De La Salle and Long Beach Poly, and do stories. And I think I love doing high school sports, because once you see these kids grow up, and a lot of them, you know, if they end up going to become professional athletes, to kind of see their career path is the coolest thing in the world. So I really like working with high school. And they're doing it at this time because they love the game. You know, like sometimes when a lot of the players get older, you don't know if it's really they're doing it just for money or publicity or whatever the case is. But at that high school age, it's really because they really love to do it, and there's no other reason for it. They love to play. It's their favorite thing to do, and it's I don't know, it's a little bit more sweeter for the heart to me. So I'm excited.
Yeah, and that really kind of strips away everything in regards to the nuts and bolts of the sport, and
Right.
kind of dehumanize these guys and just expect them to perform well, and that's all that counts. And if you didn't perform well, what good are you? And they're human beings with lives and issues and families and relationships and their own problems and challenges to deal with. And those kind of stories are good to see, because it
Absolutely.
brings it back to a level of, okay, we're all humans here. Let's treat each other well, and understand that we're kind of all in this together, or should be.
Yes.
So that's good to hear, Britt. Britt Johnson, KLAF, just starting a new gig there. So we appreciate you coming on, Britt, and it's kind of setting the scene in regards to the LA sports scene overall and as it pertains to college football.
Absolutely. And if you guys want to follow me on any of my journeys, my social medias, I am Britt Johnson with 2 T's. And that's I have a Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff. I just got back on Twitter, so I need some followers on Twitter. So if you guys want to follow me on Twitter, I'm also going to be doing a weekly YouTube channel, just kind of doing my weekly predictions or top stories. I just did a story yesterday on the whole Colin Kaepernick thing. So yeah, follow me.
Well, you keep doing interesting interviews and stories like that. I have no doubt that people will be jumping on board for your YouTube channel and Twitter. So that's great to hear, Britt. We appreciate the time, and I know you got a lot going on with your new job and with traveling across the country. What's that?
I said, and football's about to start.
Yes, so we got to catch the game tonight, Panthers Broncos. Yes. So, Britt, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.